So let's get going. So number one, the big one is, you've heard a lot about this, I'm sure, and what we're trying to get across today is things that you can do when you go home, and practical things that everyone is doing right now. I get a lot of questions about, like, what are the things I should be paying attention to, because you can do a million things right now, right? There's so many things that you can do from an AI perspective, but the number one most important thing, in my opinion, is building out your personas. So this is not, special advice. It's more a call to do something that typically and historically has taken a very long time to do. I come from the agency world. I worked in an agency for almost 8 years, and I did a lot of persona building and a lot of persona work. Anyone who has ever done that type of work knows it takes months and months to do. But with the advent of AI, this is much easier to do and much easier to keep up. And as we get through this, there's kind of a theme, and all of these tips kind of build off one another. But ultimately, passing it off to Nick about the way that you can do it in the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So Conductor makes it super easy to build out these personas. And the first thing I'll say, I say this to all of my clients, is even if you don't have personas, let's get some things in there. If we're setting up our AI tracking, we want to know if we are reaching the people we want to reach. And even if you don't have a fully baked out persona, you know your general target audience, right? So and just looking at these right here, right? It's a 3-word name and then a short description. That's all you need to let our system then go pull in the right prompts and make sure you're tracking the right AI data to make decisions off of, AKA making sure you're reaching the people you actually want to reach. And so both the personas here in Conductor and our content profiles, which feed into our writing assistant, which will then take those personas, take the people you want to reach, and write to them, right? Rather than writing to everybody in the world, everybody who maybe comes to your site, let's write to the people we actually want to reach and who are more likely to convert in whatever that means for your website.
Yeah, and I can't stress the importance of this, right? Because in the world of AI, and even in traditional search, like, this will help you. We live in a 2-channel world right now, right? Like, we have traditional search, which is still very important. It still gets 260. Google still gets 260x, the amount of activity that ChatGPT does. But we have this amazing opportunity here with AI growing in popularity, and we're not going to be optimizing to keywords, right? We are going to be optimizing to personas and to search intent, right? So there was a slide that Seth showed before in his keynote, which I gambled whether or not he was going to show it, because I have a version of it here as well, so I lost that bet. But ultimately, this is, all joking aside, this is going to be infinitely important, to think about, because it's not about optimizing to a keyword, right? It's about optimizing to a persona. What personas do you have? I'm not saying you have to go and build out 25 personas, although it's a lot easier these days with AI. But ultimately, you also have to recognize what are the search intent stages that your product, services, or your company focus on, right? And you're not creating content to rank for a keyword. You're making content to show up for a particular part of a prompt that is being asked of AI. So just as an example, like, the average length of a query in Google is 3 to 4 words, right? The average length of a prompt in ChatGPT is 23 words, right? Think about all the different intents that can be put into a 23-word prompt. And you have to have the content that when that question is asked, or even a piece of that question is asked, it has to be there. So what does that mean? You have to get really specific, you have to think really big, and you have to think really clearly, because that's what AI is going to reward. They're going to reward clarity, they're going to reward brevity, and they're going to reward specificity. And it's really easy to look at this in the product.
Yeah, so right here we're looking at, we've just did our personas, right? We know who we want to reach. Now we have to reach them when they want to be reached, right? At the right stage. Are they looking at pricing, or are they just looking for some information on something, right? If I am looking to sell something here in our example, right, I've filtered to our executive buyer persona. That's who I want to reach. And I'm looking for those in the purchase stage, right? So right at the top of that table there, and we can see that's the person that I want to reach, right, at the right stage. And so I want to know what's going on with these prompts. And I want to know if I'm cited or mentioned in these prompts specifically, because I am then measuring myself against my target audience, rather than in the past in traditional search, right? If you rank 1, fantastic. If you rank 10, that's great, but you're ranking for everybody. You don't know who is coming into your virtual store, right? But here we can really drill down and give such more deeper insights into who you're targeting, and that should really be the thing that really drives your strategy and informs your actions.
Yeah, and the product makes it so easy. Like, you know, if you came to me a few years ago and said, Pat, like that's going to be really hard. Like, you know, that's going to be a lot of work to drill down into that, really find all of those specific insights and really find like, hey, this is the specific thing that I need to do. But the product makes it so easy now. And again, I've been using this product since the beginning. I was a customer of Conductor's before I worked here. I just hit my 10-year anniversary. It makes me feel old.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I look okay. You know, but ultimately, you know, like that's really kind of the secret, you know, the secret thing here is that you have a product that makes this a lot easier for you. And if you set it up with the personas and you generate and you curate the right prompts, it makes it very, very easy to understand what content that you need to create, right? We can make it a lot easier for you. So I guess what I'm saying is like, don't overthink it. You know, just go with what the product says. And, you know, typically like let us do the hard work for you. And then you just have to go and create the content or update the content that you have, right? So moving on to tip 3. This is one that I'm particularly passionate about, you know, mainly because I say this line all the time, which is, you know, search is everywhere, there's a search bar. So with what's happening right now, I think, you know, like a conversation that needs to be had at every organization is that I'm not just talking about your .com, like writing an article on your .com, which is what a lot of people think I'm always talking about, and maybe that's my fault, you know, but ultimately what we're talking about here is that there are a lot of ways in the product that you can find you can find insights to create an article on your site, but then you have to think about how do I take that one piece of content that I've created and make it into 10 pieces of content across multiple multiple platforms, right? Because where are people searching? People are searching on Google, certainly, still. People are searching on ChatGPT, on Perplexity, on TikTok somehow, on Instagram, on, you know, like in all these different surfaces. You know, you have to think about all these different surfaces, right? Do you wade into the tragic waters of Reddit? Probably. We all have to start thinking about that no matter what type of company you are. You know, like, do we have to start creating more short form videos on YouTube? Yes, we do, right? But that can all come back to starting with that one piece of content. And Writing Assistant here, you know, helps us do that. So Nick, you want to take it?
Yeah, no, so again, in the platform, we see our Writing Assistant here. That score at the top right, our content score, is probably one of my favorite new features that we have. So we've talked about personas and intent and writing to the people that you want to reach, right? But search is everywhere. So we are still going to be on traditional Google. We're still going to be on social, obviously. And definitely, maybe not reduce, but reuse and recycle content in all of your channels makes too much sense not to do. And so Writing Assistant here makes it super easy to have that content. And one of my favorite parts of Writing Assistant, besides the score, is how it mostly chunks up your content into nice little headers. We'll have optimized H2s. We'll still put our keywords in there. But that's the kind of thing that can easily be broken out into a social post, maybe something that would be a good video down the road. Always good to have multimedia content for both traditional and any type of newer search. Any LLM loves to see that you have different types of content. And in the platform, it just makes it super easy to get exactly what you need there. You can even highlight certain sections that maybe you want to break out and maybe you want to tweak them a little bit. Our AI tool will help you do that, just the little section that you do need to change. And so what comes out, again, Pat's already said it, right? What comes out of the platform is taking all of that good data, all of that persona data you've given us, everything we know about your website, and giving you the best content to reach those people you want to reach, to Pat's point, wherever they are.
Yeah, and you know what it comes down to is that people are having conversations about your brand everywhere, right? Like, it's not just on your .com, and this is not something like, this is not a new movement, by the way. This is something that AI just accelerated, right? Like this, what I've been calling like the great diversification of search. This is not a new thing, right? People have been searching on Facebook for a long time. People have been searching on Instagram for a long time. People search everywhere. AI has just accelerated this by like 100x. And this is what we have to start thinking. And now the new surfaces, of course, are agents, right? Like, because there's going to be people like Seth was talking before. There's going to be, you know, an agent for travel. There's going to be an agent for beauty. There's going to be an agent for, you know, anything that you can think of. And you have to make sure that you have an answer for that particular agent for your products and services. And it's not just about, I want them to find my website. No, you want them to find your brand. And your brand might be talked about on Reddit. It might be talked about on TikTok. It might be talked about on Instagram, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to be there when the, you have to be there when the question is asked, or at least a piece of the question is asked, right?
And you want to own that conversation.
Yep.
If you do not, then someone else will.
Yep, absolutely. So, so moving on to tip 4, this is, so anyone who's ever seen me talk knows I'm all about, organizational excellence and building out centers of excellence and process. Everyone, it's time. It's time. Tip 4, talk to teams you probably don't normally talk to. The reality is that everyone that touches the site is going to impact the SEO, AEO, whatever acronym you want to use today. It's dealer's choice. I don't get into the acronym game. But ultimately, you have to recognize that this is a team sport, but what does it look like for many other, many organizations? Is that not everyone knows that they're on the team, right? And it's I feel that this is such an opportunity with the advent of AI for people in, in the SEO field to go from being doers to influencers, right? And I talk about this a lot as, like seize the carp, everybody. This is an amazing time of opportunity for all of us. I've spoken to more C-level executives in the last 6 months than I've spoken in the last 6 years. It's really exciting. I talked to the CDO and the CMO of Victoria's Secret yesterday, and we had such a great conversation. It was really exciting. And I've been having so many of those conversations. And a lot of the times what they're asking, they're not asking me, well, what content should I create? Like, they're not asking me those specific questions. They're asking me, how do I fix or set my organization up correctly to do this at scale? And that is the opportunity for every single person sitting in this room, is to have that conversation and to really dig in and say, I know how to do this, and here's how you build process around this, because the best SEO programs or AEO programs are mechanical, and they're built on the backbone of process.
Yeah, I think the key word there is opportunity. It's an opportunity for all of your businesses to optimize the way you work, and it's an opportunity for all of you personally to be able to drive that strategy and answer those questions and build that center of excellence. And it's really, I think at least as long as I've been in SEO, it's the biggest opportunity that we have had as SEOs, right? Everybody wants to know what's going on with AI. That falls under SEO generally, and now you have the floor, right? Basically, you have the mic inside of your own organization, and it's the perfect time to take advantage of that.
And I'm excited about it, everyone. I mean, I hope you are too. I'm excited for you. I was out in Brighton SEO a couple weeks ago talking, and I was borderline yelling at the crowd. I should probably tone it down as I talk about this, but I get really passionate about it. But I was like, I'm so excited about this opportunity, and I'm so excited as I'm talking to people here today, because everyone I feel are asking the right questions, and we finally have like a real audience like at organizations, to kind of make that a reality, right? And that leads into probably the biggest question that I get, I know Nick gets, which is, how do you actually measure all of this? And a lot of folks ask me, it's like, and there's a lot of different combinations, by the way. I have heard wild combinations of how people are tracking visibility, and what we're going to do here right now is just go through what we believe are the right areas to start with. I'm not saying that this is the end all be all, but these are the metrics that you should be starting with. So Nick, you want to take us through? Yeah, so and if you want to before I pass it off to Nick, if you want to understand what are the metrics and you want to take a picture of a slide, this is the slide to take a picture of. Because again, this goes, and we're going to go through all of these, individually, but if you just want it in one place, I want to give everyone the opportunity to snap a pic. But this is really where we are starting, and what we are seeing that there is a correlation to success in AI by measuring these metrics, which you can do in the platform. You measure all of this in the platform. But let's go through them individually and have some comedy. So Nick, you're running this.
Yeah, so absolutely. So if you're a Conductor customer, you're already familiar with the concept of market share, right? We have that now for our new LLMs. Honestly, maybe my favorite LLM metric that we have, brings in your competitors. How are you doing? We already talked about all that good, those good topics and prompts that we're pulling in based on your personas. And now we want to know who is owning that conversation. Hopefully it's us, right? But if it's not, we want to know that too. So obviously trends over time, it's always good to start measuring that. But pie chart there, just a snapshot of who is owning the conversation that you want to be in, right? You need to know that. And that also goes back to, so in this case, you know, if you have a third party writing about you, that's another time to bring in a new team member, right? Like maybe it's a PR team member, maybe it's a comms team member, but somebody who does more of that external communication. That role is now solidly over here. And we need to know where to tell them that the conversation is happening, and we can find that very easily with our LLM market share right here.
Yeah, and you know, again, this is not rankings, right? Like we're not talking about rankings. This is topic authority. This is your brand's authority within a particular topic. It's basically share of voice, right? Like that's really what it is in its simplest form. But ultimately, when you're looking across the different LLMs, this is what you're looking for, and that's why like AI topic maps, which Wei showed in the keynote earlier. That's why that's going to be like the new form of research or keyword research, you know, just to kind of combine, you know, kind of make a parallel between the two. Because while rankings are still important to understand where you are, there's a high correlation between ranking highly in Google and showing up highly in in AI. And why is that? Because when LLM doesn't know something, what does it do? Anyone? It Googles it. Prize. There you go. You know, prize. It Googles it. You know, so again, like this is like all these things work together, but think about like topic authority more of like brand authority, share of voice. That's the way to explain it, you know, like as you're talking to, you know, like senior level people at your company.
Mm-hmm. And I think we're all pretty familiar with these two at this point, right? Our brand mentions and our citations. Where are we being talked about? Where are we being linked? Obviously, we all know why we need to know those ones. And that is how you're going to start to measure your content. One thing I will say is think about the type of content that you're measuring. If it's more blog, editorial type content, maybe we're looking for more of the mentions. Even if we're not cited, we want to be in the conversation and be driving that conversation. Where if it's maybe more product related content, we do actually want to make sure that citation is there, and we are going to be looking for that traffic to come in. So keep that in mind too, both these metrics and then what are you measuring? I think we've all kind of done, right? Traffic, conversions, revenue for everything, right? But maybe that doesn't make so much sense for a blog anymore. And maybe we need to get a little bit more precise with how we're measuring these things.
And these are hard metrics, right? Like this is something that you can show our mentions went up, our citations went up or down, and then you can have a solution to it. Because again, like some things are more like broad. This is a very specific thing. You could say, hey, listen, like for what we're tracking, for the topics that we're looking at, we have a higher share of voice, our mentions have gone up, and our citations have gone up. And these are hard metrics that you can show leadership. Big one here.
And so maybe a little bit shifting to the softer metrics here, brand sentiment and where that sentiment is coming from. Again, same thing we just went over, right? Maybe an opportunity to bring in the PR team, to bring in the comms team and say, hey, we are being talked about on these sites positively, which is great. We're being talked about negatively on these sites, and what can we do about that? How are the LLMs talking about you, right? It's not a ranking. You're not 1 through 10. It's a agentic answer. It's going to be conversational, and you want to make sure that conversation is positive when it's about your brand.
Yeah, I mean, do people like you or not, right? Like Seth gave the example of that article that was, you know, in the keynote that was completely outdated, that misrepresented Conductor. And again, when you can, like, finding something like this would have been near impossible, you know, in, you know, like 2 years ago, right? But now you can actually find that source and say, wow, this is a wildly inaccurate depiction of my company. And you can very quickly create a piece of content, get that out there. The LLM picks it up, it's fresher, and you can turn that sentiment around within 24 hours. I mean, it's pretty wild, you know, like, and there's going to be whole campaigns built around this. I'm telling you right now, now that the product does this, there's going to be whole campaigns built around negative sentiment and fixing that, but also pumping up where we have positive sentiment. So if this is not something that you're considering, put this down in your book and say this is something that we should be paying attention to.
Own the conversation. Yeah. And of course, we're going to set up our personas. We're going to be looking at those intents, right? We want to measure those things. So Conductor makes that very easy. You can see those intents down at the bottom there, and all of the different ways we'll break down where a person is in their searching journey, which is a little bit different from the traditional marketing funnel that you might be used to, right? There's a few extra steps in there. I think comparison is a really good one that, like, I wouldn't traditionally have said is in the funnel, but is a big part of it and does deserve to be called out. So you might want to create your own comparison content. I know that's something we've actually done at Conductor with our competitors. We found that we were not owning the conversation of Conductor versus X, and so we had to make that content, and now we are in that conversation, and our voice is being heard. And so this is the data that drove that. This is the data that drove that decision and just worked for us 2 months ago.
Yeah, build personas, optimize to personas and intent, and measure it, right? Like that's a great workflow, and that's an end-to-end solution to tell, to tell the organization, here's how we're doing. Here's an end-to-end way that I can show you. Here's how we feel we're doing in AI. And then last but not least, I believe.
Obviously, back to our hard metrics, right? Traffic, this is one that everybody will understand already and we can report out. We want to have all of those different layers of data underneath, but obviously AI versus organic performance, right? How much traffic are we getting from these different sources? I know those are questions that everybody is getting. And then which engine? And which engine are you performing well on? Which engines aren't you performing well on? They're not all the same. All the LLMs are trained and built differently. So you do want to make sure you know where that traffic is coming from. Again, where is the conversation and are you in it?
Yeah, I'm calling it right now. This is going to be the most snapshotted and put into slide chart that exists in Conductor AI right now, which is the AI versus organic performance, because this is what everyone's asking, right? Like how are they working together and how do they interact with one another? All right, and then one last tip, and then we'll cut it off because I think this one's really important. I know we're at time, but is AI bot crawler activity. This is something that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about, which is how often are AI bots coming to your site and what parts of your site are they crawling, because that means they're retrieving that content, chunking it out, and putting it back in the answer. And what you're looking for here is dead zones on your site. You may think like, wow, we have this really great piece of content and there's a piece there that we know is good, but ultimately if they're not coming back all the time or they're not coming at all, that means you're not showing up.
Yep, exactly. And obviously, really easy, really nice visual here from Conductor Web Monitoring that will show you exactly that. And you do obviously need to know when they are coming to your site. If they're not coming to your site, how often are they coming to your site? It's a more vital piece than ever. And as you can see from just this snapshot of data, it's very different from traditional Google. So it's something that you need to pay attention to a little bit more. And the last thing I'll say is I think generally we'll do a log file analysis, right? And that will use this data. I think that log file analysis name is scarier than it should be. And we're really just talking about, are those bots hitting your site, right? Is your content being found? Are you in the conversation?
Yep, and everyone, that is our time. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, please come find Nick and I. I'm also happy to give you Nick's phone number so that you can call him at any time.
I got to catch a flight, sorry.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both so much.